Greetings everybody, John Tsar here with a premature evaluation of 20XX. This game came out of early access in August 2017 and kind of fell off my radar as we were getting to the busy season. But I've been following this game for a while and I just want to make a video because I feel like it's been a little bit overlooked. It's been a really fun game. It's $14.99 on Steam, and there have been some rumblings about this game coming out on the Xbox and PS4 in 2018, but nothing officially quite yet. And I think that this will be just an absolute perfect fit for the Switch. And for those of you that were disappointed by Mighty Number 9, this game will definitely scratch your Megaman itch. It's an homage to Megaman from everything in the game, from the name of the game to the structure of the game for the different powers that you get from the bosses and the boss weaknesses and that kind of stuff. It also plays more of a rogue light. The levels are randomly generated, and the orders of the bosses that you have to fight, or the order that you have to fight all the bosses in, is random as well. So I guess my first question for you guys is, do you have a favorite Mega Man game? Just let me know in the comments. Like, I've been a Mega Man fan for a long time, but I guess they all kind of run together in my mind. Like, obviously the art style changed dramatically over the years for Mega Man, and maybe Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, like those are my favorite ones, the NES ones. And then kind of as they left their 8-bit roots, I became less and less of a Mega Man fan. But I don't think it was the 8-bit nature of the games that made me a Mega Man fan originally. It was the brutal difficulty. It was the very interesting structure, kind of choose your own adventure of the game, and how the boss powers kind of like really reward knowledge and reward practice and just, you know, the brutal platforming of the games. So right now in this game, so I'm gonna make it to, oh boy, in this run I think I make it to the second to last level or the last level, I can't remember. The game starts off very difficult, and there's 3 different difficulties you can choose from. The easy difficulty gives you 3 lives, and that's a great way to just kind of learn the basics of the game. And you might not even complete the first boss on your run on the easy difficulty. And then after you kind of get a hang of the controls and understand the flow of the game a little bit better, and understand like how your character evolves through a playthrough, you'll move to normal difficulty, which is what I've been playing on primarily. I have not tried the hardest difficulty that has skull modifiers similar to Halo that you know, change how much currency you earn through the game or have enemies do more damage, those kind of modifiers. I don't think I'm going to get to the point in this game where I really want to play on that hardest difficulty. So after you kill a boss, you have an opportunity to choose which boss you want to kill next, or one of 3 bosses you want to fight next. Unfortunately, the boss power that I just earned is not the weakness to any one of these 3 bosses. So, unlike Mega Man, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to fight, use your new power to easily take out the next boss. Also, I want to point out that it's a really interesting system. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting concepts in this game that I really enjoy, especially after playing a lot of Dead Cells lately. A lot of roguelite features that kind of evolve your character, make your character stronger the more you play, to make it, you know, so that not only can you put the difficulty from easy to normal, but your character, like, there are passive upgrades that you can just buy. Like that glowing character dropped some soul chips. Those stay with you after the run, and you can buy permanent upgrades. And there's, I don't know, maybe a half dozen of them. They slightly make your character a little bit stronger. but they are not going to be the defining thing that makes you better at this game, unlike a lot of other roguelite games. With the soul chips, you can also buy just new items, just purely new items that will then be available to you throughout your runs. And that is what's really going to separate your first run apart from your 50th run, is the ability to find new weapons. Like I have a very basic melee weapon here. Oh, I also should point out, and I included the timestamp in the beginning of this video, and it'll be in the description of the video as well. There are two different characters that you get to choose from as you play this game. Right now I'm playing as Ace, who has quickly become my favorite character to play in the game, and I think quite a bit more fun. He has this melee sword, and some of his sword upgrades become very powerful. The default character, her name is Nina, and she is Megaman. She has the blaster, she has the ranged blaster, and I decided to have the bulk of this video be Ace gameplay, because if you end up buying this game, you're going to end up using Ace the majority of the time as well. So it would be almost disingenuous to show Nina for the majority of this video, because I think Ace is a significantly stronger character, and there's really no, in terms of achievements or in terms of unlocks or in terms of anything in the game, there is no incentive to use one character over the other. So why wouldn't you use the stronger character? And yeah, anyway, so where was I? So yeah, let's go back to kind of the progression of the game. So after about 12 runs, you will get to the point where you are completing all 8 bosses pretty regularly, and your runs end up being successful, getting to the first final boss and then hopefully the second final boss. This game has a heavy focus on platforming challenges that ends. Oh, so this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. So the boss that I just killed with Ace, he was the second boss of the game, and now fast forward to a Nina run that I recorded, the same boss, but as the last boss. The game progressively gets more difficult, and the bosses progressively get more difficult as you run through the game. So that was the same boss, and if you want to jump back and forth, you'll see it a little bit more clearly as the second boss and the 8th boss, and you'll see it. They're completely different arenas. They're significantly more difficult, and that's one of the things that has really compelled me to keep playing this game over and over again. And one of the things that has kept every run really unique is that the bosses change so dramatically, whether they're the first boss or the 4th boss or the 8th boss that you play during a run. And there's also achievements tied to killing each of the 8 bosses as the 8th boss in a very unique way. Like that boss that I just killed right there, the Death Lotus, I believe the achievement is kill the boss while there are a dozen or 20 of his spawnlings alive and shooting at you. So it's a very difficult thing to do. Anyway, let's get back onto my onto my main points, my likes, my dislikes about this game. The music is fantastic, very Mega Man-esque. After a while, I got kind of bored of the music, and I started playing some Mega Man YouTube playlists of just the best music in the game. Excuse me. Also, you notice that I've been picking up a lot of power-ups throughout these levels. Not just the weapons, they're called augmentations, or augs, and they are just passive bonuses to your character that make you stronger. They'll do things like make you run faster, make you jump higher, make your basic attacks do more damage, make your boss powers do more damage, make your charge attacks do more damage. That's one thing I didn't talk about so far. There's actually a charge attack that ends up being kind of useless. I almost never use it, but if you hold the basic attack button, you then can charge and do double damage with that attack as well. There are also armor pickups, a head, a body, legs and arms, so you can kind of uniquely and randomly, I would say, build your character for each run. And I think there's 4 different sets of armor that you can find throughout the game. And after, I don't know, I'd probably say I've done 30 or 40 runs at this point. I've completed the game once or twice, the final boss once or twice at this point. And I have never completed an armor set, found 4 of the same piece of the same color armor, and there are bonus perks for completing an armor set like that, and I've never done it, so that's still kind of on my checklist of things to do. There are also daily challenges, and towards the end of this video, the timestamps in the description, I show the kind of the hub world where you buy the upgrades, where they have the daily challenges, daily hardcore challenges, weekly hardcore challenges, and then also speed run challenges and that kind of stuff that are seeded so that if you want to compete against a friend and compare best times, you can do that. Those kinds of daily challenges, personally, I've lost interest in over the years, so I don't find those particularly interesting. This boss here, my flame shield, is actually the weakness that you're supposed to use against this boss. And I learned after recording this video, and actually I'm gonna have a video coming out tomorrow going into detail about how you are specifically supposed to use all the boss powers against the bosses. This one's a relatively easy one, but every boss weapon that you get actually has some kind of interesting additional, let's call them hidden ways to use the weapon. So like the boomerang there, I did not learn until after recording this video that you can actually use the boomerang to pick up items that are kind of far away and actually use that as a way to regenerate energy. And you use energy every time you pick up you use 1 energy every time you use one of your boss powers. So yeah, there's 3 different difficulty settings, insanely difficult achievements. I'd say the biggest negatives for this game is that there are only, I believe there's only 4 different varieties of level. And there is 0 story whatsoever. I mean, it's extraordinarily minimal story. If you're not really into the platforming aspect of this game, which I got very frustrated with at one point during my first, 20 or so runs, I got to this point where I could beat the 8 bosses with regularity, but then the first post 8 boss area became extraordinarily difficult, and I could not beat it. I just died over and over and over again, and that's actually how I end this run. Is I just struggled so much that I could not get past it, and I was getting really frustrated with the platforming aspect of this game. What else did I want to talk about with this game? So we got the mid-game purchase. Okay, so there's 2 different currencies. There's nuts, which you find frequently throughout the levels. Enemies will randomly drop nuts. You find nut bags. You find nut stacks, which, like, the first time I read it, read like a nut sack, which still cracks me up because I'm a child. And those you use to buy items at the stores mid-game, which you can spend on at the vending machines as well for health not health upgrades, but health regeneration or energy pickups, those kinds of things. And then the chips that I mentioned before, you can do things like by these new drones. Like when you first start playing the game, this drone item that I just picked up will not be available. That's one of the kind of, I'd say like mid-game, I don't know, maybe post 15 run unlocks that you get. And oh yeah, the bosses become more difficult. Where am I in my notes? Okay. You know, and like I was saying before, I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells lately, and it's been very interesting moving to this game from Dead Cells, because within 2 hours of playtime, the bosses became a cakewalk, and especially after I learned the weaknesses. And by the weaknesses, I mean just the basic rock, paper, scissors weaknesses of the bosses in this game, and not necessarily the most effective way to use the boss powers. I was getting through all of them regularly. And one thing I gotta say, that one advantage that this game has over Dead Cells is that when you restart a run in 20XX from the beginning, it's still incredibly fun. I've been getting very tired of the opening levels in Dead Cells because they just become very repetitive. And then in this game, there is such a difference between your character at the beginning of a run, at the end of the run, with move speed, with what weapons you have, with jump height, with just how the whole character plays, that at the beginning of a run, when you restart a run, it almost feels like a different game. And it's very satisfying when you start a new run, because you'll probably have unlocked a new couple items, and you're looking forward to trying to find those in the next run, and thinking about like, okay, how am I going to handle this boss? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? That it's more satisfying, it's more interesting to restart a run from the beginning in this than in Dead Cells. So one of the interesting things about this game is that in addition to the rock, paper, scissors of certain bosses having weaknesses to certain weapons, you're supposed to use the weapons, you're supposed to learn how to use the weapons in effective ways. So that boss right there, I did not take full advantage of the boss, or of the weaknesses of that boss. The vile visage, the giant face there, he's weak to the mortars, and you're supposed to, or his additional weakness, in addition to just getting hit by the mortars, is when his shield pops up. If you hit him again with the mortar, so like he's invincible when his shield is up, unless you hit him with the mortar, that actually breaks his horn and makes him never able to use that shield again. And I didn't know that for a while, so I'm actually not, at this point, I didn't realize that a lot of these bosses had additional weaknesses that I just didn't know about. There's also time bonuses for completing all the levels quickly. You'll see in the bottom left that I have 7 minutes to complete this level to get a time bonus, and they're not particularly challenging. It's relatively easy to get that time bonus, even while you are fully exploring the levels. So this game does an incredibly good job of encouraging you to explore, because the rewards that you get, I just jumped off. The rewards that you get for exploring and searching every nook and cranny are very good. So you go all the way down to this bottom area, you find this bonus store where you can buy some of these upgrades with my, I actually can't buy any of these upgrades because I just don't have the currency to do it, but frequently they'll just be treasure chests and other kind of things to really encourage you to explore, and they're kind of out of the way, but the time bonuses are so lenient that as long as you don't just completely give up, it's relatively easy to get those time bonuses every single time, which give you an additional treasure chest after you kill the boss of some more nuts, or some more augmentations or things like that. Yeah, so I think as a summary, I think this game is really good at for Mega Man fans. I would not necessarily say this game is a must play. I don't think the variety in the levels and the variety in the platforming is enough to justify getting it if you're not a fan of Mega Man, if you're not liking what you're seeing, if you are having pangs of nostalgia watching this video and are interested in, you know, kind of upgrading your character and doing all these kinds of things. And, you know, it's a really satisfying platformer, but now that it's out of early access, I don't know, and the developers seem to be very hush-hush about what future updates are coming to the game. If I had to request what, you know, specific features I want to see added to the game, man, I would say more bosses. There's only 8 bosses right now. If there was a pool of, I don't know, 30 bosses and maybe 10 different level types, it would be much more interesting. I think that could kind of get away from and be more interesting to explore than just a Mega Man clone, which it is right now. If it had that kind of crazy RNG elements of like, okay, right now every playthrough I do, I know that by the end of it I'm gonna have these 8 powers, these set 8 powers. If I didn't know what 8 powers I was gonna have and what 8 bosses I was gonna fight, it would make every run significantly more random, significantly more kind of unique and challenging to kind of see, like, okay, what powers should I pick? Maybe some sort of element where instead of only fight 8 bosses, if there were 20 bosses, give you the kind, like, okay, the objective is to kill 8 bosses minimum, and then kill the final 2 Dr. Wily bosses. I forget what their names are. But then giving you the option to continue to explore and potentially kill more bosses than you actually need to. That would create a very interesting dynamic and trade-off to see, like, okay, how many bosses can I actually kill this run? Give you more kind of freedom of choice. Like, I think that would be a very interesting dynamic. And just because it's out of early access in this point, I think $15 is a good price for this game. I don't necessarily, like, because the developers have been so hush-hush about what's coming next, they're probably spending their time looking at porting this to the Xbox and the PlayStation, where, oh, I didn't mention this. I'm playing this with a controller right now. I would not recommend playing this game with anything but a controller. There's also a co-op mode, a shared screen co-op mode in this that seemed to function pretty well. I played a couple minutes of it with Eileen, who is not a great gamer, I would say. She was seriously struggling with the platforming in this game, the combination of using the dash and making some of the very, very easiest jumps in the first level she was struggling with. So this is not a girlfriend game by any stretch of the imagination. But if you have a buddy that you think that this would be a good fit for, and the way co-op works is you share the screen. I don't believe there's enemy scaling or boss scaling. We honestly didn't get far enough into it for me to even find out. But every crate drops items for both people. So one mushroom there would be 2 mushrooms, and you both get that mushroom, and you can both choose whether or not you want to pick up the next augmentation. And the interesting thing I didn't really talk about is as you get more and more augs, more and more of them become trade-off augmentations. So like, okay, this one, there's literally one called Glass Cannon. You lose HP, but then you gain more basic attack power, or you gain ability power, you know, like your boss weapon abilities, but then you lose base weapon power. Very straightforward trade-offs like that. So like you can both choose to build your character however you want in a co-op match. But like I said before, this is not a girlfriend game, so my co-op experience with this was limited. Anyway, if this game were to come out on the Switch, I would highly recommend this for the Switch, assuming that it runs well, because it's just such a whoa, I forgot about that random kind of physics glitch there that happened. Anyway, my voice is starting to go. I am going to, just leave you with with saying, like, I enjoyed my time a lot with this game. It's not a must play, but I certainly enjoyed it, and if you like what you see, I would recommend buying it, maybe waiting for a Steam sale kind of thing. This kind of game, they always end up getting cut to, you know, less than $10, less than $5 at some point in their life. And if it were to drop less than $5 out and you like roguelites, this is a definite, like, you'll get good value out of this game for $15 or less. But there's so many high quality roguelites these days. There's a lot of competition. And anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite Mega Man game, if you have one, or if you're in the same boat as me, if you're kind of in like, okay, they all kind of run together phase. Let me know in the comments, and be sure to check out my other Premature evaluations. Thanks for watching, and game on. Bye.